Hey guys, it's Carolyn. Welcome back to the show. I'm excited that you're here and I'm excited about today's guest, Dr. Angela Sturm. Dr. Angela Sturm is a double board certified facial plastic surgeon, one of Houston's most respected and accomplished female facial plastic surgeons. While skilled in all areas of facial plastic surgery, Dr. Sturm focuses on facelifts and rhinoplasty. Known for her precision, attention to detail, and artistic approach, she delivers natural looking results tailored to each patient's unique needs. It's quite impressive.
Thank you.
So, before we jump in, tell us about yourself and how you got to where you are now.
I grew up in West Texas, small town. I saw how the medical care was there, which is, you're doing the best you can, and decided that that's the direction I wanted to go. So came to Houston for med school and was like, I'll do med school here, but I'm going to leave. I'm not going to live my whole life in Texas, and I'm still here. It's a wonderful place to be. So I did all my training here, started practice here. I was in practice with another physician for about 7 years, and then started my own practice at the beginning of 2020.
Oh,
And yeah, pregnant.
such a great time.
Yeah, I was like, okay, this is it. I'm going on my own. And then we start, and I was like, okay, this is good. This is better than I thought it was gonna be. And then the pandemic hit, and honestly, the timing was as good as it was gonna be for me because it was me and one employee, and my lease had not started yet. I was subleasing because I was building out, so I was like, didn't have many expenses. So I was like, well, it was gonna happen. This is
Yeah,
really kind of
perfect time to happen.
messed up. Oh, oh. And then, so now we've grown. I have another doctor that works for me, Dr. Hamill. He does oculoplastics, so only eyelid plastic surgery. We have two more doctors that subleasing space from us, and then two nurses, laser tech, and an NP. So we've grown to a nice little
Yeah.
practice now.
So now that you're doing all this, how often are you actually in surgery?
So my sweet spot is like 2 to 3 days a week. Like
Gotcha.
more than that, it's too much. It's just kind of physical, and I get really tired. But 2 to 3 days is nice. My happy place.
Well, and plus it gives you time to run a business because, like, all
Yeah,
business owners very quickly start doing the thing and then don't have time to do the thing anymore.
right, exactly. And then you're like, how I get this done, and then it's just the stress. So I actually enjoy that part of it. So I don't mind.
Yeah. So, I know you've run successful teams. So, tell us some of the secrets on how you built and how you have your successful team now.
So I think it's really important to sit down and really do the what is my mission, what is my vision, what are the things that I want people to think about whenever they come to our practice? How does my business really want to run, and come up with these are who we are? Because, you start and you're like, okay, we're going to start this, here we go, without really having that in mind of like, these are the qualities that I want in my people. Like, I need this, I, and I learned this, by trial and error, but you do it and you're like, okay, I need someone that's inquisitive. I need someone that wants to find the answer, somebody that wants to work more than just like on the surface of, the box is checked, but okay, well, why was that hard, and why can we make it better? And how can, thinking about it from the patient perspective and then the business perspective too, because, trying to be in surgery a couple days a week and then mentor people and then run the business, I can't figure out how to do every little thing. So finding those people that I feel like are leaders in their own position to elevate the team. And I feel like each time I hire, I get better at
Yeah.
it. Like, okay, lesson learned.
No, I agree. And I think we learn that a lot as business owners, but I think too, and I don't know if it's like it just happened to be at the same time as COVID or the younger generation is coming up. I think purpose and mission is a lot more important than it was in the past, right?
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
don't know if like you saw a lot of turnover in that same, like, right after COVID, everybody was changing jobs.
Hmm.
What have you seen?
Yeah, we saw it as well, people trying to figure out what they really wanted out of a job and out of life and out of everything, that they weren't going to just do it because this was their job. Even if the hours are fine and the pay was fine, if it's not what they wanted to do, they just, were moving on. And I don't, and I can understand that, I think there was a lot of us figuring out what's important in life, and like you said, then what's our mission? And then am, am I getting fulfillment out of it? And the people that work here, do they also get fulfillment out of it? Because it's a contractual, relationship, but you do have to get something out of it and feel good about it, feel like good about where you're working.
Yeah, it's no longer just the paycheck is enough.
Yeah.
You know, like my generation of a little bit older, it's like we would work to get a paycheck, and it was great if it
Yeah.
happened to also, fulfill us and what we wanted to do,
Right.
but it wasn't the
Bonus.
overall requirement, right? And now I
Yeah.
guess it's just there's so many jobs that they can just switch so easily.
Right. And there's more opportunity, I think, like there's a lot of opportunity to work from home or to work virtually or to do, a lot of different things, which is great for people, but then that's a little hard for employers where they're like, what do you mean you're leaving?
Well, like in the construction industry, you really can't work from home, and I'm sure that you can't really work from home
They
in your field either.
Right, exactly. I know everyone's talking about the work from home. I was like, that's not really an option for us.
Yeah, really. You have to kind of be in the office. So that, I kind of
Yeah.
have it where we can have some people work from home, but definitely not
We-
my clients. They have to be
Yeah.
in the field. They have to get work done. You can't do that from home.
Yeah. Yeah. And like when we were building out during COVID, that was great because they were like, no, it's essential. Like you have to do it. And I was like, fantastic. Keep going. Don't stop.
Exactly. So, do you have like team meetings, or how much is your like how much are you involving your team like on the direction that you're headed?
So we do. We have a daily team meeting, kind of a huddle of what's going on that day, who's where, working out room management, which patient goes where, and who I want to see them. And then we have like a monthly meeting where we talk about goals and what is each person achieving, and did you achieve your last month's goal, and what is our group goals. And then I'm doing like it's kind of like a business accelerator program, and so I'll take what I've done with that person and then bring it back to the group. And I've always been just like an open book person. Like this is, I'll tell you probably more than what you wanted to know about it, but this is our goals. This is where we're going. This is what I want to do. This is, my 5 year, my 10 year goal. And this is how, I see y'all as part of it, and I feel like I really like having like collaborative meetings of like, okay, this is what I want to accomplish. Well, what do y'all think? And getting their feedback, because I feel like there's more buy-in to it,
Absolutely. Hmm.
we're more motivated to do it rather than just being told to do something and you don't really know why, like it may or may not happen, and they have really good perspective. They may say, oh, well, what this, I don't think this will work because this happens whenever I answer the phone, or this is the pushback that I get. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, let's work through that a little bit rather than, no, you just have to do it, and then it doesn't really work. So, like, I enjoy including them in those conversations and taking opinions and then say, okay, this is the direction we're going to go. And I'm not great about being a micromanager, so I'm more like, this is what I want you to do, and then we'll like
Go
rein
from
it
there.
in like those
Yeah.
little dogs and the sheep.
No, I know. It's, forward motion, but then you're also going back a little to fix kind of the forward motion that you've took.
Right.
I think that's
Right.
how most business owners are. So I have a question. How do you come up with your goals? Do you have a coach? Does somebody help you? Do you dedicate time to think about that? What does that look like?
A little bit of both. I've had different business coaches over the years, and I think it feels a little bit like therapy. Like you're talking through it, and they're talking through it with you. And then just what my big picture goal is. And I've always had in my mind like what I want my practice to look like from the time that I was interviewing for fellowship, because you get to
Really?
go all over the country and see how different people do it, and it's such a cool experience. You spend a day with them and you kind of pick their brain, and then our fellowship is like kind of a mentorship where you're basically like one person for a year, so you really on that interview, you want to get to know them really well. So I could see how different people did things. And I really liked the practices that had the big team and had, different people that specialized in different parts and, you know, had more. I think of it more like the community, like rather than
Mhm.
just like a one person and I do surgery and that's what they do. And it's great, but that's just not my personality, I guess, as I wanted to put together the big team because that's more fun for me.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think I think that's a great opportunity. You got to see how other teams ran, and then kind of make your own from that.
hmm So having my big picture goal of like that's what I want and this is sort of what I have in my head, and then step back from that. Okay, what does that look like 5 years from now and 10 years from now? How do we get to that? And it has been helpful like talking it through with people from different industries of like how did they troubleshoot some of these things and did they get to these different endpoints, because they a lot of times they have already figured that problem out, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's how I've really appreciated other business coaches from other industries. So I've had one from like trucking and printing and, you know, a lot of
Yeah.
different things that, and the basics are the same. It's just how do you work that into what you're doing, you know?
Absolutely. And honestly, like, I mean, it's kind of a creative outlet, right? Running a business, something like, I'm not good at art or anything, but it's kind of like you can make it what you want it to be.
Yeah, yeah.
It really
I
has
love
your
that
own
it feels
personal.
like a puzzle. Like, okay, I'm solving this. I'll try this. Nope, not that. And try this. Nope, not that.
Yes, and there's always things to solve, you know?
Always.
I know, I know. Okay, so I know in your experience, you deal with a lot of clients, you deal with a lot of people, and actually probably a lot of your clients would be like the same clients that my clients have, like high-end residential, all of
Mhm.
that. So, how do you manage expectations, and what kind of agreement do you have?
It's really important. It's probably the same thing for y'all because it's partially like an emotional decision. I'm going to do this. You know, this is something I really want. This is, you know, they may have something in their head and how they want it. And I do, it's like imaging on the computer. Well, I'll show, okay, here's your picture now. Here's what I think we can do, and have a really in depth conversation with what it is you're trying to accomplish, what it is that bothers you, you know, because you may come in and be like, well, it's this brown spot, but really you want to look really good for your 10-year reunion or whatever it is, you know, like what is
Mhm,
the real goal and what are we really trying to solve? And so we can say, okay, well, let's back it out from there, and then what we need to do is instead of treat that one spot, you know, yeah, we can do that, but maybe a global assessment would be better. And in some ways, you know, like you said, it's tempering the expectations of like this is how we're starting. And I do use like building analogies a lot. You know, this is what we're starting with, and this is where we're going to, and this is the materials that we have. And particularly in rhinoplasty, where I can use like the cartilage from the septum in the nose, or I can use rib cartilage or ear cartilage, and they all have different properties. And
mhm,
so I'm telling them, okay, so this is where we're trying to get to. And if your nose is super crooked, I can't use the cartilage that's in your nose because it's crooked. And so I need something that's straight to be able to make it straight. And this is how I'm going to do it. And then, you know, and that's easier to understand. Like, okay, this is where we're going. Hard to make anything 100% perfect, but we can shoot for that and then get to really, really good.
mhm,
No, and then like tempering expectations of if they've had surgery before, you know, it's that much more complicated. If there's different types of skin, it's that much more complicated, you know, and making sure I'm having a really in-depth conversation up front. And so on the backside, then we've already talked about it. You know, we have a picture that we were like, okay, let's go back to it. And both you and I can go to that picture and say, okay, how close did we get to this? Knowing it's not going to be exact, but the idea. And the consent, you know, like I said, documentation that we've talked about this. We know that this picture isn't going to be perfect and like this isn't going to be perfect, but here's what I think I can deliver, you know, and I do put it to them in that term of like, here's what I think I can deliver and here's what I expect from you, like post-op wise, to make sure the care is done the way that we need it to be done. And we all agree and sign, sign here.
yes, I don't know. I'm even though I'm a lawyer, I'm not very good at reading medical documents that they sign. They make you sign. I'm like, okay, I realize that this is a dangerous, procedure. And so, do they ask a lot of questions? How many times do you meet with them? I'm curious.
Some people do. There's different personalities. There's some people that are like, nope, I know there's risk. It is what it is. You know, this is what I want to do. Sign here. Okay, thanks so much. And then there are other people that like line by line want to go through it and ask questions, and both are fine. You know, I
Yeah.
don't mind either one. I want them to be comfortable with what they're signing. And then you have some people that'll take the picture and you go back and forth and you draw it a few times and you get it to a certain place and you know, and there's a point where it's a red flag where you're like, okay.
Very similar in the
Yeah,
fields that we're working. We do the same
really.
thing. Oh yeah. It's like, so I tell my clients to do like a design contract and
Uh-huh.
then do a contract for the build. So like if in the design phase we don't get along, we're not necessarily married to each other for the construction.
Right, exactly. Where you're like, I'll go to here, but after that,
Yeah. And so how often do you trust your gut and say, this is not going to work?
uh, more and more every year I practice more. You know?
Looking back at like, man, I knew at this point.
Yeah. You learn that where I'm sure you too, where you learn that where you're like, no, I knew it. I knew at that point that I shouldn't have moved forward. And so now I have no problem being like, yeah, I just don't think I'm the right person for you.
Yeah, I
You
don't
know,
think we're a
like
fit.
there's a ton of plastic surgeons. They all do really good work. You know, you need to have a really good relationship with them. And I don't feel like I have that, you know,
Yeah.
or I don't feel like I can meet your expectations, you know. I know I can do I know I can do a good job, but can I meet your expectations? That's totally different, you
Hmm.
know. So I don't have any problem doing it now because I know it's not fun for either one of us on the
On the
backside of
backside,
that, you know.
exactly. Exactly. Once you go through that a couple times, you're like, yeah, no, it's just
Yeah, no.
not worth it.
Not doing that, not doing it again. No.
So how many times do you meet with them before the actual surgery? I'm curious.
You know, and that sort of varies with the people too. You know,
Really?
some people I'll meet with them in consult, they do their pre-op and they're ready to go. Other people I'll meet 2 or 3 times. And it kind of depends on how far out before they have surgery if they consult. You know, if it's 6 months, a year, I want to meet with them again because it's just been a long time, you
Yeah.
know, and we haven't had that recent conversation. You know, so we'll definitely have a meeting with them again and just go through the plan and make sure we're on the same page. And even if it's brief and they're like, yeah, I got it, you know, that's also sometimes a red flag for me too. If they're a little bit too much like not paying attention to you and like, yeah, I got it. And I'm like,
Uh,
no, you don't got it.
yeah, it's kind of permanent changes here.
Yeah, no, I need you to put the phone down.
Yeah. Focus for a minute. So, like,
Yeah.
I'm sure you've had disputes. So, what's kind of your advice, like dealing with disputes, trying to prevent them when they happen?
So I I actually feel like it's easier on the patient side of thing and harder on like partnership sides of things. You know, with the patient, I feel like it's this whole process that we do every day. We go through, you know, our consents, we go through all the risks, all the benefits, all the everything, you know, like that's something that we do every day. And so on the backside, we've talked about this. This is, you know,
Hmm.
um, and I kind of do case by case basis. Like we have our protocols of this is what we do, but also, you know, is there a customer service reason to give back money? Sometimes, you know, is
Hmm.
there a reason to not if you know, like I go case by case, and I have my malpractice lawyers that I have that I give them a call before I do
Same
anything.
thing.
You
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
I I appreciate everyone's specialty and my malpractice, my HR, and my contract, and you know, I absolutely, you know, appreciate that everybody has their specialty and they've seen it and they've seen where it's gone well and they've seen where it's not gone well, and
Hmm.
so I like having that feedback of like up front, you know, how do you set everything up to make sure you're covered as much as you can be, knowing things how they usually go astray, you know, and then on the backside, what do we do now that we're in this situation and what is the next best steps? And so I that gives me a lot of comfort having people that I can call and have their expertise, you know, and it's the patient side almost feels a little bit easier because we're in that all day, every day, you
Yeah.
know, we deal
Hmm.
with that. Um,
Totally.
Partnership wise is hard, I think. Tends on our because we physicians think we're not good at that sort of thing. You know, we get our emotions involved and egos involved and all these sorts of things. And that was one of the things that I learned is like partnership wise, just think through everything. Think about it as a divorce before you go into it, you know,
Yes.
and everything lined out and as clear communication as you can, and then have that document to reflect that as best you can to have something to go back to.
Hmm.
Oh, and not act on emotions because I've seen people like far into their careers do all these crazy things emotionally, you know, and if you just step back and you take that out of it, like what's the facts and what's it's easier to deal with, you know, and you don't get as many issues and you're
Well,
not
you
calling as
know,
many lawyers.
the whole, so a couple of things here. The whole partnership thing in any business. It's like I tell my attorneys, I have great opportunities for you here, but I will never have a partner. It's like my only partner is my husband, and that's a hard enough relationship to manage. And I can't imagine it do it with people that I'm not intimately in love with,
Right.
because it's a lot to try to get different opinion. I mean, just different opinions and who thinks should be doing what. And if you do go into partnership, make there everything's clearly written out, what's going to happen, how it's going to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely We see it in all businesses, like partners are just like, oh, let's just start working together. And then they want to, split apart, and it's just a disaster,
Yeah,
you
it's
know.
hard. Yeah, it's very hard. And people get upset about the funniest things that
No.
there's big things to worry about, and this is not one of them.
Well, and I think too, the other thing that you brought up as a business owner is having a team of experts of something that you're
Mhm.
not good at that you can consult before you make those decisions.
Yeah, 100%. Like have them talk through it with you. Okay, if this happens, what do you want to do? If this happens, what do you want to do? And then get their advice. And my um, I was told at one point, oh, you really like lawyers. And I'm like, yes, yes, I do. They protect me. I like them very much.
Well, and then it comes down to when we get into a dispute like that, especially I can imagine in your field, that there's something to be said for not being prideful about the situation. Like, yes, I think this person is 100% completely wrong, but am I willing to give them some money to go away?
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, for your own sanity, and I've had this conversation with a lot of different doctors of how they feel, and everybody has a different opinion. But I think you have to decide like what is your sanity worth, and at some point, like you can fight with them, but how much are you going to spend? How much time? How much effort and mental capacity? I don't know. Are
Stress.
you going
It's
to put
stress. I
towards
mean,
that?
have you been through
Stress.
you've been through litigation, right?
Yeah, it's stress, and it's not overnight. It's a long time. It takes months and months, years, and takes a long time.
And it's
Yeah,
constantly in the back of your mind. How's this going to
yeah,
go? What's going to happen? It,
yeah,
it
and
it
you're
really
thinking about it.
it eats away at your peace,
It
honestly.
does. It takes away your peace, and that's so true. Where you're like, is it worth that, or do I just move on with life? And I'm much more willing to move on with life now than I was 5 years ago.
And I think if you've been through one of those things once or twice, you realize, yeah, it sucks and
Yeah.
it's painful now, but it would be more painful if I didn't.
Yeah, it's longer and you're dealing with it and you're not as focused on the other things that you need to be focused on and you're not moving forward the way you need to because you're any energy not going forward is pulling you
That's
back.
what I tell my clients all the time. I'd much rather you spend your money and your time moving forward than
Yeah.
going back, because this is, even in the best analytics, especially, and you're never going to get back your time. Even if you win,
No.
you're never going to get back everything you want. I mean,
Yeah.
it really is. Unless it's something substantial, litigation is a tough road, man.
It's tough. Yeah. Yeah.
And then you got to open up all your records and give them
Hmm. Yeah.
depositions. Have you been through a deposition?
I have not, thank
Okay,
goodness.
good.
Yeah, let's just keep it that way.
Yeah, you have good attorneys then. If you've not been to do a deposition, that's awesome.
Yeah. Been able to find a,
Solution
resolution.
before it got that far.
Yeah. Like I said, I have no ego in these things because
Yep,
it's
I
not worth
agree.
it.
I completely agree. Even I'm saying that as a lawyer, right?
Right?
But I honestly, part of my job as a lawyer is to counsel you, and as a business owner as well, I know what it takes. I mean, I'd much rather you spend the time and money moving forward than looking back. It's a lot.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And reliving things and, did you document everything? Because there's a bunch of things that happen along the way and you
Yeah.
never, you know, from the medical perspective, that's how we're wired is like document, document, document. And then on the employment side, we should be we should be wired that way, but I'm not going to tell you that we are really because you're like, oh, I trust this person, it's fine, da da da, and at the end, then you're like, oh, where did I document? Did I document? Where, and at that point, it's
Yeah. No, I
yeah,
know. We all try our best. And then, and that's the one thing too, is like, and you get the best thing that can come out of those situations is you learn how to do it better.
yeah, absolutely. Is that you learn? I had a friend that was a lawyer, and she was like, well, I think somebody you should go through it at least once so you know the process, and it's not as
That's
scary. It's
scary.
not fun, but it's not as scary. We're like, okay, this is what happens, and you, like you said, you learn from it. And you learn
Mhm.
what you're going to do different. You're going to do better like, moving forward.
I agree. And the whole idea of litigation is scary, but I do kind of agree with that point. Once you've been through it, you realize as long as you're paying attention and you answer everything, it doesn't go fast.
Now,
It doesn't go fast. And so as long as you're involved, it won't go fast, but it's still, scary for everybody who's never been in it.
yeah.
So what is your favorite part about running a business?
Um, it's the problem solving part of it, you know. It's the okay, so there's this. So how are we going to figure out this problem, and does this problem affect that problem, and then and you know, and you're thinking about piecing it together, and you know, this person, I want this person in this role, and what are their strengths and weaknesses, and are would they be better in this role, and you know, putting together the team. And I don't know, I probably drive people crazy whenever I talk about it because it feels like it's in circles because I'm like, because I'm thinking while I'm talking, you know.
And that was
They're
my
like, you
next
don't know
question.
what? And I'm like, no, I'm going in this direction. I'm just doing this. Trying
True,
to
and
get
as
people.
a leader, you need to give that clarity too, because they might not
Yeah.
understand why.
Yeah. I try not to do that. Like, in front of the team, it's more like my family where they're like, what? Like, no, no, no. No, I just got it. You know,
Yeah,
it's, so we just launched our third business, which we're really excited about. And, you know, me and my partner, husband, we've been together for like 10 years. And so it's like the new thing that's going to be more like his baby. And it's exciting to see him get excited about it and like him figure out what he wants to do with things. And I'm like more just making sure things go in the right direction, you know.
what is it?
So it's basically like a staffing company. We go
Okay.
into other offices and we do non-surgical treatments with our equipment and do like we're like a contract employee for
Ah,
them. So they can offer services that they
you
don't
don't
currently
offer.
have. Yeah.
That's kind of
And have
cool.
somebody that you know, the people we work with, they already know us. And so they know the person that's doing it. They know they can trust him because he knows how to do it really well. And he's a people person and he's kind of I told him he's like a sales guy personality. You know, he's like really likable and, you know, never met a stranger, could talk to a wall. And it's, it's nice to have that person in that seat so we can have him go to these different places and they know he's going to treat them really well and he's going to make them feel comfortable. And so they feel comfortable with that,
That's
you know?
awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So it's a win-win. They get to add the services and then we get to use our equipment more and Art gets to go out and talk to more people because he's a super super extrovert and that it makes me very happy.
Good. So I have to ask. I kind of ask all my business owner friends. Where do you do your best thinking? Like when you're doing business thinking?
It's when I'm doing something
Really?
but not talking to people. So if I go and rearrange the storage room, you know, or I have to be like doing something with my hands but not talking to anybody and it be quiet so I can think, you know, because
Hmm.
I'm a tinker.
No, I get you. I do yard work. I run.
Uh-huh.
Kind of same thing. It's like you're moving, but you don't have to think about what you're doing. Your
Right, which
mind
is
can go. Yes.
yeah.
I always find it very curious. Everybody's got their own little thing that they do. So,
Hmm.
well,
Yours
thank
is
you.
yard work.
Yes, yard work. I do lots of like. I'm starting to get into gardening. I guess I'm getting old, but we just redid our flower beds. Looks pretty for the summer.
Yeah, yeah. It's nice. It's nice to look at. It's hands in the dirt. It's nice.
Exactly. And then go out early in the morning in Houston before it gets entirely too hot.
Yeah, yeah. The narrow window.
So if people wanted to find out more about you, where would they go?
So you can go to my website, www.drangela.sturm.com, or you can find me on any of the socials at Dr. Angela Sturm.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
Uh-huh.